I walked into the neighborhood association meeting thinking it was just another routine evening, another long agenda, another quiet hour of volunteering. I didn't notice the whispers at first. They floated around me like static, low and sharp, stopping the moment I turned my head. I smiled out of habit, the way I always did, not knowing my name had already been dragged through the room before I even sat down. The board president cleared his throat and didn't look at me when he began to read. His voice was formal, rehearsed, almost proud. He accused me of forging documents. He accused me of stealing community funds. Each word landed like a slap I wasn't braced for. I felt the air leave my chest as if the room itself had decided I didn't deserve oxygen anymore. I looked around for familiar faces, people I had helped for years, people whose kids I babysat, whose events I organized, whose crises I stayed up late solving. None of them would meet my eyes. Some stared at the table, some stared at their phones. A few stared straight through me, as if pretending I wasn't there could make the accusations true. My niece's hand found mine. She squeezed it hard, confused, scared, searching my face for answers I didn't have words for yet. That was when I noticed the cameras. Local vloggers lining the walls, lenses pointed forward, red recording lights blinking on one by one. This wasn't just a meeting, this was a spectacle. The screen behind the board lit up. Emails I recognized instantly, but twisted, cut, rearranged. Context stripped away until my words looked careless, even criminal. They made me look incompetent. They made me look corrupt. I felt my stomach drop as I realized how carefully this had been prepared. Then someone laughed. Not loud, just enough. A man near the back leaned toward another and joked that at my age I probably wouldn't understand modern finances anyway. A few people chuckled. My face burned. Not because of the insult, but because they felt comfortable saying it out loud. I stood up. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I reached for the microphone, ready to speak, ready to defend myself, ready to breathe again. Nothing happened. I tapped it. Silence. The board president glanced down and said it must be muted by accident. No one rushed to fix it. Before I could try again, the vote was called. No discussion, no questions, just raised hands, just numbers, just a decision already made. In seconds, I was removed from the volunteer position I had given years of my life to. Something inside me collapsed. Decades of respect, decades of showing up early and leaving late, gone in the time it took to count hands. I saw her then, a woman I had trusted, a woman who had smiled at me for years. She didn't look away. She smirked. Calm, certain I had nothing to defend myself with. I walked out of the room without speaking. My legs were shaking so badly I thought I might fall. Humiliation burned through me hotter than anger, hotter than tears. I could still feel the cameras watching my back as I left. In the parking lot, the night air hit my face and I finally understood what they believed. They thought this was the end of me. I remember the day I moved to this town after my divorce. I didn't arrive with dreams of attention or influence. I arrived with boxes, silence, and a promise to myself that I would rebuild quietly. No drama, no noise, just a fresh start where no one knew the version of me that had been talked over, dismissed, and worn down. To fill the emptiness, I poured myself into community work. Meetings, fundraisers, planning committees, anything that made me feel useful again. Helping others gave me structure when my personal life felt hollow. Every thank you, every small success stitched a little dignity back into me. I wasn't trying to lead, I was trying to belong. I was raised differently, though. My late father had taught me one rule that never left me: document everything. He learned it the hard way through his own legal battles, watching truth get twisted when nothing was written down. So I kept records, notes, emails, receipts, not because I expected trouble, but because it was how I survived uncertainty. Years earlier, long before the meeting that broke me, I noticed small financial inconsistencies, numbers that didn't line up, transfers that felt unnecessary, nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just enough to make my instincts stir. Quietly, without accusing anyone, I started keeping my own records. Dates, copies, screenshots, all private. Whenever I asked questions, I was dismissed. Smiles tightened, voices softened in that condescending way. I was told I was being too emotional, too sensitive, that I was overthinking things. I swallowed it every time, convincing myself that harmony mattered more than suspicion. That's why the betrayal cut so deep. These were people I defended publicly. When others raised concerns, I shut them down. I vouched for integrity I believed in. I protected reputations that would later try to destroy mine. I still remember the first moment I sensed a setup. An email landed in my inbox that felt staged. The wording was off, the timing too perfect. It was subtle, but my stomach tightened when I read it. Something in me whispered that this wasn't accidental. My niece remembers it better than I do. She tells me about the nights she'd wake up and see the glow from my office light. Me scanning documents, comparing files, highlighting lines, not sleeping. She thought I was obsessed. I thought I was being careful. I didn't keep records out of paranoia. I kept them out of survival because I knew what it felt like to be silenced, to be told my voice didn't matter. Losing my position reopened the same wound my marriage left behind, the pain of speaking truth and being ignored. That night, after the humiliation, I stood alone in my house and made myself a promise. I wouldn't shrink again, not for comfort, not for approval, not for anyone. I walked to the back room and unlocked the filing cabinet I never thought I'd need. The rumors didn't creep in quietly. They exploded online overnight. Posts, comments, edited clips from that meeting, painting me as a criminal aunt who stole from her own community, who exploited trust, who used family as cover. Strangers dissected my face, my age, my past. People who had never spoken to me decided who I was in a sentence. Friends stopped calling, not gradually, instantly. My phone stayed silent in a way that felt deliberate. Sponsors pulled out of programs I had built from nothing, programs that fed kids and supported families. Emails arrived with polite regret and sudden distance. Years of work evaporated with a single click. Then the letter came. Thick paper, legal language, a formal threat warning me against defaming the board. Reading it, I realized they weren't just humiliating me, they were trying to scare me into disappearing. My hands shook, but something else settled inside me. Clarity. I spread everything out on my dining table and began organizing my evidence chronologically. Dates, times, names. As the documents lined up, the pattern became undeniable. What once felt like isolated discomfort now looked like a carefully managed system. Bank statements told the story they never expected anyone to read closely. Funds rerouted, amounts broken down just small enough to avoid attention. Every trail led back to the loudest accusers, the ones who shouted my guilt the hardest. Old voicemails resurfaced, messages I had saved without fully understanding why. Listening to them now, their threats didn't sound like warnings anymore. They sounded like confessions, promises of consequences if I didn't stay in line. My niece wanted me to go public immediately. She was angry for me, protective, ready to fight. I held her hands and told her the truth. Timing matters. Revenge rushed is justice wasted. I met with a lawyer quietly. No announcements, no posts. I slid the folders across his desk and watched his expression change page by page. His posture stiffened, his questions sharpened. When he finally looked up, he didn't ask if I was innocent. He asked how far I wanted to take this. The board announced a press conference to clear their names. They smiled for the announcement photo, confident, relaxed. They assumed I'd stay silent to protect my reputation. That shame would keep me obedient. Every attack hardened me instead of breaking me. Every lie gave me another reason to stand taller. I stopped reacting and started preparing. They thought I was done. I was just getting ready. The phone rang late at night, the kind of ring that cuts through sleep and lands straight in your chest. I almost ignored it. Almost. When I answered, the voice on the other end was tense, unsteady. A former board member. one who had quit suddenly months earlier without explanation. Call I? He didn't waste time. He told me he had been pressured to falsify records, told what numbers to change, told when to stay quiet. He said he complied at first because he was afraid of losing his job, afraid of retaliation, afraid of becoming the next target. His voice cracked when he said he couldn't live with it anymore. He offered sworn testimony, not rumors, not sympathy, testimony, but only if I could guarantee protection. I told him the truth, that I wasn't powerful, but I was prepared, and I would protect him the only way that mattered, with evidence. When I told my lawyer about the call, he didn't hesitate. He reviewed everything again, slowly this time, then looked at me and said the words I had been holding my breath for. The case was airtight, solid, unavoidable. In that moment, something shifted. I understood this wasn't just about my humiliation. It wasn't about restoring my name alone. It was about stopping them from doing this to anyone else. I made my decision without drama. I would attend the press conference they planned against me. Not to interrupt, not to argue, to end it. I notified my lawyer and the local investigative journalist at the same time. No leaks, no warnings, just alignment. That night, for the first time since the meeting, I slept. Not restlessly, not in pieces. Deep, uninterrupted sleep, like my body finally trusted me again. In the morning, I chose an outfit that made me feel grounded, not defensive, not apologetic, something that reminded me who I was before all of this. I didn't rehearse a single sentence. I didn't need to. The documents knew how to speak. As I walked toward the venue, I felt it clearly. The power had shifted. I could feel it in my posture, in my breath, in the quiet calm under my skin. They still believed I was alone. I walked into the press conference while they were still repeating the accusations for the cameras. My name echoed through the room like a headline they had rehearsed all morning. They spoke confidently, comfortably, certain the story belonged to them. No one noticed me at first. They didn't expect me to show up. No. I stood still and listened. I let them finish. I waited until the moderator opened the floor for questions. Then I stood up, steady, and said my name clearly. The room shifted, heads turned, cameras swung toward me. Before anyone could respond, my lawyer stepped forward. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply handed reporters copies of the original, unedited documents. Real emails, complete records, nothing cut, nothing rearranged. Screens across the room began to light up as journalists pulled the files up on their devices. Timestamps aligned, signatures matched, transaction trails led exactly where they weren't supposed to. Every inconsistency they denied was now visible to everyone at once. The room went silent. Not awkward silence, shocked silence, the kind that swallows sound whole. I played the voicemails next. Their voices filled the space, calm and threatening, contradicting every public statement they had just made. You could hear it happen the moment their confidence cracked. The former board member stepped forward, hand shaking, voice firm. He confirmed everything. The pressure, the falsified records, the fear. He didn't look at them. He looked straight ahead. Hi, the board president tried to interrupt, tried to regain control. Reporters shut him down before he finished his sentence. Questions flew faster than he could answer. Police officers entered quietly, professionally. They weren't surprised. The evidence had already been submitted. I finally spoke. I didn't accuse. I didn't raise my voice. I stated facts, dates, documents, truth. Cameras didn't capture my pain. They captured their panic. How? Justice unfolded right in front of them. Days later, the charges were announced. The board members who had humiliated me resigned immediately, their faces pale, their voices gone. I watched from a distance as the town absorbed the news, as the truth finally cracked open the lies they had built. Online, the narrative flipped. The same comments that had called me bitter and desperate now called me meticulous, careful, precise. Every post, every video, every share reflected the truth I had been holding quietly all along. Apologies arrived, soft and cautious. Some whispered through email, some through phone calls. Too many were too late, and I let them linger in the air without reaching for them. They were echoes, not reconciliation. I was offered my position back. It was tempting, but I declined. With dignity, I stepped away, knowing that reclaiming my role wasn't the same as reclaiming my power. I had already done that. Community programs were restored, rebuilt under transparent leadership. Families returned, kids returned. The trust I had nurtured for years began to bloom again, this time on solid ground. My niece stood by me, her eyes wide with pride. "You handled it perfectly," she said, and for the first time, I let myself feel proud, not just strong. I donated part of the recovered funds to legal aid. Justice, I realized, should extend beyond personal victory. It should ripple outward. The filing cabinet that once felt like a weight of worry now felt like a shield, a reminder that preparation is survival, that evidence is armor when the world doubts your voice. I reconnected with myself beyond the scandal, beyond anger, beyond humiliation. I found quiet confidence in the rhythm of my own steps. Healing became possible again, slow but undeniable. Every day a little lighter, every day a little freer. I understood at last, proof is power when truth is doubted, and silence, once my default, was no longer my refuge. I would speak, I would protect, I would endure. Humiliation is a strange teacher. I've learned that it's less about shame and more about endurance, about how long you can hold yourself upright when the world seems determined to push you down. Every whispered rumor, every accusatory glance, it was a test, and I survived. Being underestimated gave me an advantage I never expected. While they assumed I was broken, I had the space to gather truth, to collect evidence, to prepare quietly while they flaunted their false confidence. All those folders, all those scanned documents, all those meticulously saved emails, they weren't tools of revenge. They were protection, a shield against a world that doubts too quickly, that judges too easily. To anyone out there being publicly doubted, I want you to hear this. Your voice matters even when no one listens. Your instincts matter even when they are called paranoid. You do not need permission to stand in your truth. Quiet preparation beats loud defense. Waiting, observing, documenting, it is not weakness. It is strategy. It is patience. And it is power. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. The small signals, the subtle hints, the uneasy feeling in your chest, they are more reliable than empty assurances from the people who might betray you. Keep records even when you hope you'll never need them. Every note, every copy, every voicemail is a thread that can hold the weight of justice when everything else collapses. Justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it waits. It watches. It gathers evidence. It comes when it is ready, and it arrives with a force that no lies can withstand. I want to thank those who listened instead of judged, who stayed patient while the world questioned me. Your attention mattered more than you know. I encourage you to share your own experiences, your own stories of betrayal and resilience. Speak your truth, protect your name, learn your own strength. And if you want to witness more stories where patience, preparation, and courage win, subscribe, watch, learn, stand firm. My voice is finally heard, clear and unbroken, and that no one can take that away from me again.